All right. Hi, everyone. Welcome back to our latest episode of the Growth Playbook with myself, Kim Clark, and my dad, Alan Beaulieu. Today, we're going to be talking about oil prices. And I know everyone else, you're hearing them talk about oil prices too, but it's not like we're going to necessarily take a different approach. It's just we need you to have the right facts and not the hyperbole or just the short-term impact. A lot of people, Dad, you were talking about focusing on barrel prices and what they look like right now, but this is much bigger than that very narrow view. So, looking forward, Dad, to your thoughts as always and the research that you put together for us.
Thanks, Kim. I'm glad to be able to do this because I am bothered by a lot of people's narrow focus on this problem, and you can talk about Brent crude is up to 120 or 102, whatever it is, and people go, ah! But without understanding really what it means. And this is multi-layered. And I want folks that are listening to us to have that bigger picture because this war is not going to just end. And it's not going to be then just gone and forgotten. There are ramifications that are going to last a long time because of this war, and our listeners need to be prepared for them. It will impact a lot for a long time to come. So we're going to talk some near-term stuff and some of those implications as we go forward, and try not to bore everybody out of their mind while they're doing it. Let me go out there on the record and say this war is going to last longer than President Trump says it's going to. Uh, Last I saw, which was yesterday, he was saying, hinting at 2 to 3 weeks more. And he said, and I'm quoting him, he would feel it in his bones when the war was won. So I'm going, then he pushed off his appointment with China by a month because he didn't want to go talk with China about this because this is a strain on U.S.-China relationships because we're prosecuting war in Iran. And so he pushed it off for a month. I think it's going to go longer than that. Certainly longer than the 2 or 3 weeks, and it could easily go a month because the last time there was a short war in the Middle East was a long time before he was born. It was the Israel-Arab War, Six-Day War in 1967. I mean, every time somebody starts something, they go, "It'll be over soon." No, no, doesn't happen, and we have in a I'm going to use the word enemy because they're the chosen enemy of the United States. And I'm being careful because I don't want to say Iran because not all Iranians are what we're talking about here. The government of Iran is the chosen enemy here, and this is ideological. If you want a war to last a long time, you make it ideological. People will stand on that hill for a long time and take lots of shots if it's about God and country. And so I don't think that's being factored in. People think this is an oil war or a nuclear weapons war, but it's turned into an ideological warfare. And that has a lot to do with this. So, why is this going to last a long time? Because Iran has intelligence to them, and Russia's helping to supply some of that military intelligence through Russian satellites. They're providing them information on military targets in the area, U.S. and other Israel's and other people's military targets in the area. So they're not firing blind. They know what they're doing, and they have weapons. They have more weapons than probably was anticipated. Um, so as Iran's reaching out, they're not doing it blindly, and they're hurting. They are hurting because they are making sure ships aren't going through the Strait of Hormuz, which we touched on briefly a week or two or three ago. But since then, the president has tried to, let's call it, cajole people into helping provide safe travel for transport ships through the strait. At first, he said the United States was going to guarantee it, and then the United States was going to insure it. Then the international insurance market said that's not going to impress us at all. And I mean, it became quite a mess. And, we bombed some markets, some military targets on a key island, which is a transport jump off point. And Mr. Trump, President Trump, excuse me, said that he's thinking about targeting the oil production facilities themselves on the island, not production, but transportation facilities. I mean, this thing is just getting crazy, right? And the Iranians have sunk ships or attacked ships, I should say. So the president is trying to cajole our allies. This is a key point. Sorry for taking so long, but to me, it's a buildup. This thing is just keeps,
Hmm.
and he's trying to get the United Kingdom, Germany, Japan, South Korea, and China, among others, to help. Now, the UK is always first in line with the United States. I mean, we are close, right? Whenever there's a problem, you can count on the UK. They said no. We're not going to do that. We're not going to be there. And they're cutting back on expectations for oil and energy and the cost of energy as they go forward. Japan, one of our closest allies in the world, says, we're not sending ships. Sorry. No. Germany, nine. We're not going to. And China said, no. And under their breath, they said, why would we? Well, the answer is because they get so much of their needed oil supply from Iran that you would think the president and probably others thought that, of course, they'd want to participate to make sure the oil got through. But China has said through back channels, we'll make our own deal with Iran and they'll let our ships through. So they don't need to get involved and they'll get the oil that they need. And so if this continues to be a choke point, can you imagine the pain this will bring to different parts of the world? It's not going to bring a whole lot of pain to the United States because we're largely energy independent. And uh, I'll get to the higher oil prices in a minute, but this is going to put a lot of pain into Asia and it'll put a lot of pain into Europe. And in Southern Asia, for instance, different nations are saying we're going to cancel universities, we're going to cancel schools so that we don't have people spending, we're not spending money on electricity, we're not spending money on people going back and forth. They're asking people who commute to commute just 4 days a week, not five. They're asking people to not use their cars. I mean, they're just, and businesses are going to feel this pinch. And as the global economy, Europe and Southern Asia cools off, the US is not immune to that. Their activity is good for us. We sell things and they make things that we want to buy. So as they're cooling off, it is certainly not a thing that promotes US growth. Okay. So what we're doing here, what may have been a nuclear deterrent war is having a global economic impact. And what I read the other day, which was an overstatement, I want to be really clear, it was an overstatement, says that this is becoming an economic world war. Vast overstatement, but the impact on the world is a better way to put it. And so, as our allies are being stressed, and as they see us prosecuting a war that they don't agree with a large negative impact on them, they're not going to forget that next Tuesday. They're not going to forget that a month after the war ends. I
Our
mean,
global rankings and reputation might drop again this year.
that's right. That's right. Good
Down
point.
to 18 we go.
We were at 48. Where can we go? 60 is the bottom. So, I mean, to me, and maybe I'm alone, but having allies matters in this world. We are, almost 30% of the world's economy, but that's still 70% that could be against us, and so it matters. And we need allies, and if we continue to alienate them this way, it will have a negative impact on the future. And when I say on the future, on the Great Depression, and on people deciding to move away from us and find other places to park their money safely, which we've talked about in the past. So we're not going to get into that. I won't follow that rabbit trail today. But domestically, what's going to happen? Well, consumers are going to feel this. There was somebody out there who was saying this is pretty minor to consumers. And it sounds on the surface like it would be because how much of the average family's budget goes towards energy costs, gasoline in particular, has gone down. But what wasn't brought up was that this impact on oil prices impacts the pump, and it impacts people this way because as this is going on, our real personal income in this country is continuing to slow in its rate of growth. So we're slowly feeling a squeeze over here on our income because of inflation, while inflation called gas prices is going up. And inflation is going to keep going up because all the oil energy costs impact businesses. And those businesses are going to have to deal with their increased energy costs, and they will pass it along. The ultimate is either B to B or B to C. So either business upon business is paying more, but eventually it's the consumer who's paying more, and that's called inflation. So as real personal income is going down, inflation is going up. That means the economy is going to slow even further than some people think.
Mm.
And right now they're pointing towards retail sales are up on an adjusted basis. I think one number I saw was 6.2%. You go to another source, government source, and you find that it's much less than that. You go to another one, it's much less than that. I think there's some people out there that like the numbers they see, but when you look at the majority of the numbers, it's like this is not healthy retail sales. It's kind of going along. And if we make more stress on the consumer, then that's a problem. Now let's talk more about inflation. One of the things that goes through the Strait of Hormuz is fertilizer that comes to the U.S. because we don't like to make it here because it's an environmentally unfriendly process and it's made of petroleum and that sort of stuff. So if all of a sudden fertilizer is hard to get or much more expensive to get, that means that farmers have to pay more, which means that farm prices go up. So some food costs go up. And diesel costs are going to be going up because a lot of diesel comes through the strait. So that's also farmers, farm equipment, but it's also transportation. The warehousing and the transportation industry are facing higher costs. And they're going to go, ah, that's on us.
What?
Jet, jet fuel goes through the straits. And so, airline costs go up or their profits go down and there's less taxes going into the federal government. So not only is it the amount of money to prosecute the war, it's lost income. Um, it's a mess. This is an incredible mess. So with all this strain on global relationships, all the subtle inflationary pressures in different parts, it's not just at the gas pumps. Petroleum's used everywhere. We're going to find that what we've been saying, you and I, for a long time now, that inflation's not going away, inflation's coming back. We're not going to see interest rates drop if we do 25 basis points because the new Fed chair wants to make nice to Trump. And it won't be long before it goes back up again. And the future we're looking at means that your work and Ryan's work with them is going to be key because the other people will be, floundering, wondering when this is going to end, and you're going to tell them just keep swimming, but in this direction, and this is how you swim, right? You're
Yeah.
gonna,
I like it.
and that's going to be the key as
Mhm.
we go forward, because what's going on now seems like in people's minds it'll be done in 2 weeks, but the implications will last much longer. Oh, and I forgot to mention, oil prices go up quickly, but they come down slowly.
Mm.
I just saw somebody say they come down almost as fast. That's BS. They come down slower because there's uncertainty, because there's lots of money being made at prices that high. So nobody's in a hurry to go, oh, let's just go back down. We're nice. They come down slowly. And normally you would say, oh, Saudi Arabia and others could ramp up production, but they're under fire too. So it's the only one really benefiting right now. There's some U.S. oil companies that are really benefiting because prices are high and they're making a lot more money, and Russia. So while we have said that Russia's under sanctions, President Trump has removed the oil sanctions. So Russia is selling oil around the world to help mitigate against the war in Iran. So while we were punishing one enemy, now we have another enemy. So they're no longer being punished for Ukraine. And it's just my head spins, Kim. It's like we don't have any coherent policy except you and I need to warn folks, do not expect things to go back to how they were real quickly, and instead be savvy with your business. Everything from leadership to planning to sale of the business to marketing, everything that's involved, because these are dangerous waters.
Yeah, I agree. It's a geopolitical mess. There's so many different factors to be taking into consideration. And I appreciate you mentioning Ryan and my work. For those listening in, Ryan has spent the last 11 years building an owner's operating system. That takes everything into account that Dad, you were just talking about. And it's not just looking at revenue, it's looking at every single decision as an owner that you make and how that has an implication on your cash standing, say like a year from now, and having your ownership goals mapped out and timeline mapped out, and every decision you make is grounded in that kind of within that framework and those decisions and such, and being able to shed light and visibility onto all of that. And to your point, I think it is of utmost importance for business owners to be thinking about their business that way. Because if you're going into this year, we're coming out of the first quarter, and you're saying, well, I'm going to do better than last year because I've learned from XYZ that happened last year, that's not going to be enough to be able to make it through 2026 and hit all the goals that you're looking to hit. And certainly if you're applying again, Ryan calls it the Hope Plus strategy, where you say, well, normally each year we grow by 5%. So I'm going to just assume for the next 5 years, I'm going to continue to grow at a 5% increase. That's not going to cut it in the conditions that we're headed into. I believe in your book, Prosperity in an Age of Decline, you called it a tumultuous decade, and it certainly has felt that way in the first half, and it certainly doesn't appear to me that it's going to be any better in the second half.
You're right on all of that. You know, that Hope Plus there are lots of businesses out there that do that, just amazingly so. And in good times, you can do that, but in a tumultuous decade, that's not a plan.
No,
So,
no.
oh well. Anyways, I'm happy to share. I hope it helps people to understand that this is not a 2 week problem. This is going to be with us a while, and the impact is going to be with us a while. Your key is to watch the Strait of Hormuz, and when do ships start flowing through freely? And I don't think Iran's going to give up easily. I just don't.
And also, I think to end it, if I may, from my perspective, that I always appreciate this insight and the true perspective on the situations, but I also take it with the perspective of we're not sharing it to be doom and gloom. We're sharing this perspective because there are ways to manage your business and be profitable and successful. So this isn't a throw up the cards like there's nothing you can do here. There are tactics and strategies to employ. You just need to surround yourself with the people that have the knowledge of those tactics and strategies to be employed.
That's right. That's why you're Luke Skywalker and I'm Darth Vader, who is really the hero of Star Wars. So that's what I do.
Awesome. Any other closing thoughts you want to share, Dad, before we head out for the week?
Let's head out for the week and have a good one.
All right. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in and listening to us. As always, you have questions, thoughts you want to share, feel free to put it in the comments or reach out to us directly. We're always here and happy to connect with folks and help any way we can. Bye, Dad.
Take care, Kim.